So what's the myth?
The myth today has to do with the cause of the Hindenburg disaster.
May 6th, 1937, one of the darkest days in aviation history. The giant German Zeppelin Hindenburg, with 97 people on board, hovers over New York City. That evening, as it comes into land at Lakehurst Naval Air Station, the airship suddenly bursts into flames. 36 people die in the inferno. History's largest airship is reduced to ashes in just 34 seconds.
Doesn't everybody know that that was caused by the hydrogen, which is the reason they don't fill blimps with hydrogen anymore?
Not according to our myth. Our myth states that the cause of the Hindenburg disaster was its skin, specifically the dope and paint on its skin.
Incendiary paint theory was actually put forward by a retired NASA scientist, Dr. Addison Bain. After studying fragments of the Hindenburg's hull, Bain cleared hydrogen as the cause of the blaze, blaming instead the airship's metal-based paint.
Okay, well, where do we start?
Well, since the myth is about the skin, I think that's where we should start. We should find out exactly the type of fabric that was used and exactly what that fabric was coated with and replicate the skin in the shop and see how it burns.
Okay.
The Hindenburg skin was 100% cotton, treated with a kind of paint, or dope as it's known in the trade, which made the fabric taut and waterproof. The dope's ingredients included aluminum powder and iron oxide. Put them together and they produce an extraordinarily explosive substance called thermite. Now, the Hindenburg didn't have the same dope solution all over. The lower half had 3 coats of dope containing aluminum powder. The upper half had the thermite mix, a base coat of butyrate and iron oxide, then 3 coats of butyrate and aluminum.
Here's what I'm wondering. If aluminum powder and iron oxide are so dangerous, why use those 2 components to coat the Hindenburg skin?
Well, they figured that was the best combination to reflect both heat and light from the delicate inner bladders that held the hydrogen.
This should solve the mystery once and for all. They'll build 2 16-foot Hindenburg scale models and coat them with the aluminum iron oxide paint. One will be full of air, the other hydrogen. And if the hydrogen Hindenburg burns faster, then this blimp myth is busted.
I think we need to do a third one as well. I mean, one that guarantees a thermite reaction.
All right, so 3 blimps it is. I think we can do it.
That third blimp burn will show what would happen if someone was crazy enough to paint their airship with pure thermite.
The first test is just the blimp without any gas, no hydrogen, and we're just going to burn the skin and see what that does.
Right on target, it's going. That was quick.
A thermal imaging camera will show the path of the fire as it rages through the blimp. The Hindenburg burned in 34 seconds. For the myth to be plausible, this Hindenburg has to be consumed in a similar time.
I'm seeing little thermite sparkers. Like little... But yeah, we're already at 1 minute, 10 seconds.
Suddenly, the fire accelerates.
Oh, wow! Wow!
Oh, yeah.
That is so beautiful!
Sparks cascade as the aluminum and iron oxide on the skin create thermite. The thermal camera shows a massive orange as the fire spreads through the blimp.
Bang. 2 minutes, 6 seconds.
On to Hindenburg burn number 2. This Zeppelin will be filled with hydrogen. Now, just pumping the blimp full of gas and lighting it won't work. Instead of a burn, they'll get a bang. The gas will have to be diffused.
We're going to feed it from the hydrogen tanks through this blue gas hose up the main strut and into a trough of water. And the trough of water is going to diffuse the hydrogen across the entire Hindenburg.
As the flames take hold, Jess starts feeding hydrogen into the Hindenburg. The gas ignites.
Whoa!
More hydrogen! More!
And the blimp is instantly filled with flame.
Wow. Look at that.
What's our time?
Boom. Wow. 59 seconds flat. That just feels exactly like what we see in the newsreel. God, it's great.
Compare Adam and Jamie's result with the newsreel footage. They're remarkably similar.
He said for this myth to be true, both burn times with and without hydrogen had to be the same, and they weren't. With hydrogen, this thing burned up twice as fast. It's busted.
Yeah, but you know, the skin actually did have a fair amount to do with this. We saw that it does burn aggressively, and it was clearly a part of what was going on here. We even saw little bitty thermite reactions, which tells us that, like any good myth, there is a grain of truth to the fact that the skin had something to do with thermite.
But in the end, it was the hydrogen plus the skin.
Yep,
We're calling this one busted.
busted.
But hang on, what about that third blimp? The skin of this Hindenburg has been coated with pure thermite, aluminum and iron oxide blended in a secret, searing formula. What you're about to see is what would have happened if the original Hindenburg, filled with hydrogen, was painted with rocket fuel. Unsurprisingly, the flammable thermite fires up in no time. And after a dash of hydrogen, we're cooking with gas. Heinemann's Hindenburg is history.
We gotta call that. Boom!
30 seconds flat.
That is exactly the kind of burn that the proponents of the skin theory believe happened. Except that the skin of the Hindenburg was not coated in hundreds of pounds of thermite.
Yeah, that thing wouldn't have gotten off the ground with that much thermite per square foot. There's no way.